France has set a global example in protecting public health by proactively addressing the risks of wireless radiation, particularly for children. With policies ranging from banning Wi-Fi in nursery schools to mandating radiation exposure labels on cell phones, France's comprehensive approach prioritizes health over industry interests. In contrast, the United States lags behind, hindered by outdated Federal Communications Commission guidelines and regulatory capture. Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., as Secretary of Health and Human Services, offers a unique opportunity to champion similar reforms in the United States. By leveraging his advocacy for transparency and safety, Kennedy can lead a transformative effort to safeguard Americans from the health risks of wireless radiation. France's 2015 law regulating exposure to electromagnetic fields stands as a model for prioritizing public health over industry pressure. Here are the key measures France has implemented. Wi-Fi banned in nursery schools. Wireless networks are prohibited in areas for children under 3 years old, such as nurseries and daycare centers, to minimize exposure during critical developmental stages. Wi-Fi minimization in primary schools. In schools for children up to 11 years old, Wi-Fi routers must be turned off when not in use for educational purposes. Cell tower compliance. A decree ensures that emissions from cell towers are monitored and comply with public safety limits. Results are publicly accessible. SR labeling on phones. Specific absorption rate values must be clearly displayed on cell phone packaging, educating consumers on radiation levels. Public access to radiation data. Citizens can access environmental measurements of electromagnetic radiation near their homes. Targeted protections for children. Cell phones sold for children under 14 must include accessories to minimize radiation exposure to the head. Schools and parents receive information on reducing exposure to wireless radiation. Recognition of electro-hypersensitivity, or EHS. The government committed to studying and reporting on EHS, acknowledging the struggles of individuals sensitive to electromagnetic fields. As HHS Secretary, Kennedy can draw inspiration from France's proactive policies to address the growing concerns surrounding wireless radiation in the United States. His leadership would be pivotal in implementing similar safeguards, especially for vulnerable populations like children. The case for change in the U.S. Outdated FCC guidelines. The FCC's safety standards, set in 1996, focus solely on the thermal effects of RF radiation, ignoring decades of evidence showing non-thermal biological effects like DNA damage, oxidative stress, and neurological disruption. These guidelines do not account for modern exposure levels where cell phones, Wi-Fi routers, and 5G towers inundate Americans with constant low-level radiation. Regulatory capture. The FCC has been criticized for prioritizing industry profits over public health. Kennedy's 2021 lawsuit against the FCC highlighted the agency's failure to address non-thermal risks, despite overwhelming scientific evidence. The court ruling in Environmental Health Trust et al. v. FCC forced the FCC to revisit its outdated regulations, providing a foundation for Kennedy to advocate for meaningful reform. Key actions Kennedy can take: first, revive and expand wireless radiation research. The National Toxicology Program, or NTP, and the Ramazzini Institute have provided compelling evidence linking RF radiation to cancer and other health risks. However, the Biden administration halted further NTP research, leaving a critical gap in our understanding of long-term exposure effects. Restarting NTP studies could be a priority for Kennedy, focusing on funding large-scale studies to investigate RF radiation's health impacts, particularly on children and heavy users. Additionally, supporting independent research by encouraging partnerships with universities and independent organizations could help explore non-thermal effects and potential links to developmental disorders like ADHD and autism. Next, update FCC safety guidelines. Kennedy can work with the FCC and the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, to revise safety standards, ensuring they reflect current scientific understanding. Key updates should include addressing non-thermal biological effects such as DNA damage and oxidative stress, lowering permissible exposure limits similar to France's precautionary approach, and introducing stricter guidelines for schools and childcare facilities. Another critical action is to launch nationwide awareness campaigns. The Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, can spearhead educational initiatives to inform the public about wireless radiation risks and how to minimize exposure. Campaigns could promote the use of hands-free devices and speakerphone mode, encourage tech-free zones in homes, especially in bedrooms and children's play areas, and distribute informational materials through schools and healthcare providers. Protecting children in schools is also essential. Following France's lead, Kennedy can advocate for measures to reduce wireless radiation in educational settings. This could include banning Wi-Fi in nursery schools and minimizing its use in primary schools, requiring schools to notify parents and staff before installing new wireless equipment, and providing funding for wired internet solutions as safer alternatives to Wi-Fi. Finally, addressing electro-hypersensitivity, or EHS, is crucial. The HHS can allocate resources to study EHS, ensuring that affected individuals receive recognition and support. This could include developing guidelines for workplaces and public spaces to accommodate those with EHS. Scientific evidence supporting reform. Key studies on RF radiation risk provide a solid foundation for reform. The National Toxicology Program, or NTP, found clear evidence of cancer in rats exposed to RF radiation and documented DNA damage and oxidative stress at non-thermal exposure levels. The Ramazzini Institute study confirmed the NTP's findings at lower radiation levels, mimicking real-world exposure near cell towers. Genetic profiling of tumors has shown that rat tumors caused by RF radiation share characteristics with human gliomas, reinforcing the relevance of animal studies for human health risks. Lastly, the Bio-Initiative report, a comprehensive review of over 3,800 studies, highlights RF radiation's links to cancer, neurological damage, and reproductive issues. Addressing the impact on children. Bioelectric disruption. Children's developing brains and bodies are particularly vulnerable to RF radiation. Research suggests that exposure disrupts bioelectric signals essential for cellular communication and development, potentially contributing to developmental disorders like autism and ADHD, behavioral changes, including attention and memory deficits, and sleep disturbances, which impair cognitive and emotional health. Reproductive health risks. Studies indicate that RF radiation reduces sperm quality and motility, raising concerns about its long-term effects on fertility. These risks underscore the need for stricter protections, particularly for young people exposed to wireless devices from an early age. The broader implications of reform. Health benefits. By following France's lead, Kennedy could significantly reduce Americans' exposure to wireless radiation, preventing long-term health issues and alleviating public concerns about technology-related risks. Economic and technological advancement. Investing in safer wireless technologies, such as low-radiation devices and wired internet alternatives, could stimulate innovation and create new market opportunities. Global leadership. By adopting progressive policies on wireless radiation, the U.S. could join France in setting a global standard for health-focused technological regulation. A vision for a safer future. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s leadership as HHS Secretary represents a pivotal opportunity to protect Americans from the invisible but pervasive risks of wireless radiation. By reviving research, updating safety standards, and raising public awareness, Kennedy can ensure that public health takes precedence over corporate interests. France's proactive policies offer a roadmap for change, demonstrating that safeguarding health does not have to come at the expense of technological progress. Under Kennedy's guidance, the U.S. can adopt similar measures to protect its most vulnerable citizens and pave the way for a healthier, more informed future. Call to action. It's time to demand accountability from regulators and support leaders like Kennedy who prioritize transparency, science, and public health. Join the movement to protect future generations from the health risks of wireless radiation. Visit RF Safe to learn more.